This new upcoming indie horror title is interesting as it mixes classic survival horror elements but puts a completely different spin on it, and it's something that we haven't really seen before. The game does utilise fixed cameras, tank controls with very bright, colourful but yet dark graphics at the same time that are very reflective of the PS1 era, and that is under the name of Sorry We're Closed, which is an unusual name for a game of this type that obviously discusses a lot of dark and morbid themes. We are taken to different worlds, almost like if you're in limbo between the real world and even like a demon world or hell, and your character must complete a variety of different objectives that will require you to explore the demon world. But in order to do that, you also have the ability to gather weapons which you'll need to defeat enemies. But what's interesting is that all the enemies have their own particular hit counters that you can hit and target to destroy them a lot quicker, so you'll need to have your wits and reflexes about you in order to achieve that. But in order to solve many of the game's puzzles, you have the ability to be able to warp in real time into the real world within a limited area, so that will bring rooms or environments into a real life setting which you'll need to use to acquire physical items which you can then take back into the demon world in order to solve many of the game's puzzles. It's actually a really cool concept. It's not something I've ever seen before. I say while the graphics are very reflective of the PS1 era, they do look very cool. They really suit the game's aesthetic and setting, and almost in a stylized look and feel that you wouldn't often see. But it also proves a point that just because it's used in this old style doesn't mean that it can't be good, if you will. If anything, this was a lot better than I expected. Out of all of the demos that I've played in recent times, I really enjoyed this one because it was very, very different. But what's interesting as well is while the game does use fixed cameras and or dynamic cameras, for the combat you go into a first person mode to shoot your weapons, so that changes up the course of the gameplay, adding even more dynamic to the whole experience. Very interesting title, I have to say. While the style is very different, it obviously does take its influences from other titles from different genres, but adds it into the survival horror element, which makes it stand out, and it is very unique. Now it may not be for everybody, but classic die-hard survival horror fans I think will definitely take an interest in this. Again, there is a demo available on Steam and over on itch.io, so I will leave links below to the pages in the description. I do genuinely think that this is one worth checking out. It's very, very interesting, it's very out there, but it has all of the classic elements of your typical Resident Evil clone, but just adds its own spin on it, which makes it very, very different and unique, all in its own right. And what this game really shows is that even with these old styles, you can still be very, very creative, even more so, because these graphics may come from an older period to a degree, but there's just something really charming about them, almost timeless, if you will. But even at the same time, these graphics, in my opinion, are still among the most atmospheric you'll still see in video games even to the current day. There's just something very cool and eerie about the textures in the environments that really just unnerve you, and it still has the ability to do that even to this day. So when you do see modern games like this coming out, they are able to invoke not only nostalgia but that sense of fear. So the way I see it, as long as games like this keep showing up, I'll keep playing them, and I'm sure you will too. With that being said, however, this is just but one of many interesting titles that is definitely worth a look at that is showing up in modern times, and yet there are still more that need to be discovered, which we will look at here in this next video, so you might want to check it out.